So yesterday we learned a valuable tool regarding mixed numbers. So let's see if we can utilize this tool in our problems today. So I'm going to read this problem aloud. Use one rational number to represent the following expression. Show your work. Okay, so what does it mean when it says use one rational number to represent the following expression? Well, it means that the problem wants us to simplify this expression to one answer. In other words, let's solve the problem, right? It's a fancy way to just say solve. Okay, so I see that there is an expression inside the parentheses. And so I remember that in sixth grade, when we're using order of operations, right, we deal with the grouping symbols first. So you may have done PEMDAS, but I prefer GEMDAS because the G stands for grouping. So anything in parentheses, anything in brackets. Eventually, if we had an expression that was complicated up here above a fraction, right, in the numerator, we would solve that first. That's another way to show grouping. So I remember we would do the grouping symbols first before we worked outside of those parentheses. So this is still true, but I have also learned in the previous lessons that we've been talking about that we can rewrite subtraction problems to an addition problem by rewriting it as adding the opposite. So I'm going to make note of that as well. So writing this down in your notebook, that we learned we can change subtraction problems to adding the opposite. I did not include the, so adding the opposite. So in other words, 5 and 2/9 will stay the same, and the minus will change to a plus, and everything inside the parentheses is now going to be rewritten as the opposite. Okay, so I'm going to see every term that's inside and rewrite it to its opposite. So a positive 8.1 is now going to be written as a negative 8.1. So let me just write them in parentheses so everything's nice and neat. Plus a positive 5 and 2/9 will be a negative 5 and 2/9. So again, I'm just putting parentheses around each term so everything is nice and neat. So now that we have rewritten it, this is now an addition problem. So now we can see which terms would make it easier to combine first since we're adding all three of them together. So I now see a positive 5 and 2/9 and a negative 5 and 2/9. So what happens when we add a positive number with its negative opposite? Well, if we were thinking of a number line just really quickly and we had a positive 5 and 2/9, and then all of a sudden we were adding a negative, right? We went this way first. So to add the negative, we would go the opposite, the exact same amount of spaces, and we would end up right back at 0. So 5 and 2/9 plus a negative 5 and 2/9 equals 0. So I'm going to just show that by canceling these out because now all we're left with is negative 8.1 as our answer. So even though you may have found another strategy to solve this problem, maybe you wanted to convert the mixed number to a decimal or work with the expression on the inside of the parentheses first, I have shown a third option that may have been less popular, but ended up actually being even easier because I didn't even have to deal with the fractions or the decimals. So you're about to try a problem on your own. So let's see if this strategy of adding the opposite will help our problem solving in the next example.